My child-free wife demanded I send my orphaned sister away, so I divorced her and left her begging for my forgiveness. I, 32M, never expected my world to turn upside down in a single phone call. I was at my office desk sorting out monthly reports when I got the news. A terrible car accident had claimed my father and mother's lives. They left behind my little sister, just 14 years old, suddenly orphaned. I rushed to the hospital, heart pounding, and found her in the waiting room, tearful and alone. Without hesitation, I hugged her close. She was my sister, my blood, and now my responsibility. My wife and I had always been child-free. She was adamant about it since the day we discussed marriage. I respected her choice. We enjoyed a quiet, stable life with no plans for kids. But this was different. My sister wasn't some hypothetical child. She was family. My wife was at home when I returned that evening, my sister beside me, both of us still in shock and grief. I explained the tragedy, my voice trembling. My wife listened, arms folded. I said gently, "My sister will stay with us now, at least until we figure out guardianship and long-term plans." She narrowed her eyes. "What?" "No," we agreed. "No children." Confused, I replied, "This is an emergency. She has nowhere else. She's my sister." My wife scoffed. "You can't just bring a kid here without my permission." I stared in disbelief. "It's my family, and a tragedy happened. She's a minor. I'm her closest relative." My sister stood silently, head bowed, tears on her cheeks. She'd just lost our parents, and now she was hearing rejection from my wife. That night, tension crackled in the air. My wife insisted I send my sister to a foster home, or find some relatives far away. "We have relatives on mother's side," she said dismissively. But those relatives were distant and struggling themselves. I tried to reason with her. "She's traumatized, she needs support. I can't dump her with strangers." My wife's entitlement emerged in full force. "I never signed up for this," she hissed. "You promised me no kids. You fixed this mess without involving me." I looked at her, stunned. My sister's presence, my parents' death, just a mess to fix? I spent that night comforting my sister in the guest room, while my wife stomped around, furious. The next morning I tried talking calmly. "She'll stay temporarily, let's work out a plan." My wife shook her head. "No, either she leaves, or I do." That ultimatum lit a fire in my chest. She forced me to choose between my orphaned sister and maintaining a child-free bubble. She showed no compassion, only entitlement to a life uninterrupted by tragedy. I realized I'd never truly known how cruel she could be. If she expected me to betray my sister, she had no idea who I was. I decided then, I would protect my sister at all costs. If my wife wanted a war, I'd give her one. I'd explore my legal rights, guardianship, even divorce if necessary. My sister needed me, and I wouldn't abandon her for anyone's selfish comfort. The next day I met with a family lawyer, explaining the situation. He affirmed that I could become my sister's legal guardian easily, as I was an adult sibling with stable income and a suitable home. The only complication was my wife. Legally, she had no say in whether I take in my sister, unless it affected her rights to marital property. The lawyer advised documenting my wife's attempts to remove my sister, as it could influence divorce proceedings if it came to that. When I returned home, my wife was waiting, arms crossed. She wasted no time. "So, when is she leaving?" I took a breath. "She's not leaving. I'm filing for legal guardianship." Her jaw dropped, then twisted into a sneer. "You'd choose that brat over your own wife?" My anger flared, but I kept calm. "She's not a brat. She's grieving her parents. My parents. If you can't understand that, then we have bigger problems." She tried entitlement tricks, threatening to move out, insisting I pay for her separate accommodation, demanding I send my sister to boarding school. "We can afford it," she said smugly. "Ship her off somewhere." The cruelty stung. My sister listened from the hallway, tears welling up again. I reassured her quietly, "Don't worry, you're safe here." My wife tried dirty tactics. She began nitpicking my sister's behavior. "She's leaving her backpack on the couch. She's too noisy." My sister tiptoed around, terrified of causing trouble. I confronted my wife. "Stop harassing her." She retorted, "This is my home too. I have rights. I'm not tolerating a child here." I recorded some of these interactions on my phone. My lawyer said evidence of her hostility might help me in court. After a week of tension, my wife escalated. She demanded I send my sister away by the weekend, or she'd take legal measures to force it. Ridiculous bluff. She had no grounds to force me to abandon a family member. I called her out. You can't force me to do that. You have no claim on her. She screamed, You owe me. I married you under the promise of a child-free life. You broke that promise. I fired back. I didn't break anything. A tragedy happened. You have no empathy. Her face twisted with entitlement and rage. Don't talk to me about empathy. I'm entitled to the life we agreed on. At that moment, I realized there was no saving this marriage. Her cruelty toward an orphaned teenager was unforgivable. I decided to file for divorce and request full ownership of the house, given her behavior. My lawyer advised that her attempts to force me to abandon a dependent relative might sway property division in my favor. She laughed when I mentioned divorce. You'll regret it, she said, eyes gleaming. I'll take half of everything. I just shook my head. With evidence of her malicious intent and lack of cooperation, I was confident the judge wouldn't reward her cruelty. Soon, she'd learn actions have consequences. A few weeks later, we met in court. I'd filed for divorce and guardianship of my sister simultaneously. My wife came in dressed sharply, confident smirk on her face. She and her lawyer tried to portray me as someone who sprung a child on her without warning. They claimed I was reneging on our original agreement, no children, and thus causing marital distress. My lawyer presented the facts: unexpected death of my parents, orphaned sister in need. We played short audio clips of my wife demanding I get rid of my sister, mocking her grief and calling her a burden. The courtroom grew quiet as everyone listened to her cruel words. The judge's expression hardened. She attempted to justify herself. I never wanted kids. I told him that from the start. He's forcing me into this situation. My lawyer gently reminded the court that my sister's arrival was due to tragedy, not a planned decision. I had every right to care for my minor sibling. The judge asked my wife, So you're suggesting he abandoned his orphaned sister because you don't like children? Her stammered response sounded hollow. I just wanted my life back. I didn't sign up for this. I presented character witnesses, family friends who knew how close I was to my sister, how I supported her after the accident. They confirmed I'd always been a responsible brother. Meanwhile, her witnesses, a couple of her friends, offered only vague statements about how she disliked kids. Nothing substantial. When it came to dividing assets, my wife demanded half the house, half my savings. She insisted she deserved compensation for this breach of contract. The judge frowned, noting her apparent lack of compassion and the fact that she was trying to profit while refusing to show basic human decency. My lawyer highlighted her attempts at emotional blackmail and her hostility toward a dependent minor. The judge considered this carefully. In many states, marital property is split equitably, but a judge can consider misconduct. Her behavior looked like moral bankruptcy, something the judge found particularly distasteful. In a surprising turn, the judge ruled strongly in my favor. I kept the house and majority of the assets. My wife received a modest portion, much less than she expected. The judge also granted my guardianship request for my sister, praising my willingness to step up during a family crisis. My wife erupted in anger outside the courtroom, accusing me of tricking the judge. You'll pay for this, she snarled. I stared calmly. I just protected my sister from your cruelty. There's no trick. Just truth. She stormed off, furious and humiliated. Over the next days, she tried calling me repeatedly, begging me to reconsider, to give her another chance. She apologized half-heartedly, claiming she acted out of fear and stress. I wasn't interested. She'd shown her true colors. There was no going back. With the divorce finalized, I settled back into the house with my sister. We grieved our parents, but found comfort in each other's presence. The oppressive tension my wife brought was gone. My sister started therapy, and I worked to help her regain some normalcy, enrolling her in a good school, setting up her bedroom in a comforting, stable environment. My ex-wife tried every angle to reach me: tearful voicemails, emails describing her regret, even showing up at the front porch. She once knocked, crying, I made a mistake. Please, I can learn to accept her. I stepped outside, kept the door behind me locked, and said quietly, When I needed understanding, you offered only cruelty. Now I owe you nothing. Her tears turned to anger, then desperation as she realized I was serious. She threatened to spread rumors that I'd manipulated the court. I shrugged. Who would believe her after we presented hard evidence? She threatened lawsuits, but for what? She had no grounds. The divorce decree was final and fair, given her behavior. Eventually, her calls tapered off. My sister noticed my calm resolve. She asked once, "Do you miss her?" I thought about it. "I miss the person I thought she was, but not who she truly is," I replied. My sister understood. We moved forward, free from that toxic influence. In time, I rebuilt my life around my new role as a guardian. We supported each other through grief. My sister excelled at school, made friends, found hobbies. I watched her grow stronger, grateful I didn't sacrifice her well-being to appease my ex-wife's demands. If I had listened to my wife's ultimatum, I'd be haunted by guilt forever. I learned that true character emerges in crises. My wife's entitlement and callousness revealed someone I couldn't respect or trust. So I took a stand, fought back legally, and ensured my sister's safety. In the end, I emerged victorious and unburdened.